Welcome to episode 1 of Tales of the Ultimate Sportsman. These are true life fishing and hunting stories by sportsmen and women just like you. This episode has 2 short stories that we think you will enjoy. Let us know by leaving a comment either way. And if you want to hear more, please subscribe and follow. Be careful out there and good luck.
Fishing for Tigers by Marisa Ippolito, Edinburgh, Scotland. I was recently fishing for Golden Mahseer, a member of the carp, barbel family that grows to over 100 pounds and lives in the Asian river systems, in India amongst the splendor of the Himalayan foothills. We were warned that a man-eating tiger was in the area and had already killed 2 young village children nearby. As I was camped by the river, I was being very cautious, and admittedly just a little bit concerned. Folklore says that a tiger will attack you from behind, where it cannot see your face. When lure fishing for mahseer, if there is no action for a while, the best thing is to change to another plug to entice the mahseer with this new offering. Usually while doing so I would keep one eye on the river while changing over to watch for fish movement. However, this day, having heard about the roaming tiger, I decided to keep my back to the river in order to keep one eye on the car-sized boulders directly behind me and on the jungle behind them. All of a sudden, there was a lot of splashing in the river and I turned to see large fins moving behind a large rock 10 yards away. I was excited and concentrating hard on watching the fish and trying to quickly change the lure. Without warning, I heard the most blood-curdling growl behind me. I stopped dead and froze. In 1 second flat I jumped and turned around, dropping the lure, and was almost ready to take my chances by throwing myself backwards into the dangerously fast rapids in an attempt to escape if I had to. Scanning my surroundings, and hearing only my own heartbeat, I suddenly saw a little head pop up from behind a large boulder about 20 yards from me. The smile on that face was stretched from ear to ear. The smile soon fell when I, in a rage, mainly from the shock of the moment, I screamed at him, "Of all the stupid, you son of a bitch." My Indian friend, who had worked in the jungles of Assam in his lifetime, seemed to know very well how to imitate the growl of a tiger. However, he now bolted off running down through the rocks shouting something about his fear of a woman scorned. I never did see a tiger, but did catch a beautiful golden mahseer, and was the only one of us on that trip to do so. Well deserved, I thought.
The Little Lake and the Big Storm by Jon Hedin, Sturgeon Lake, Minnesota. I woke up in my tent and it felt like the humidity was already 70 or 80%. The 20 or so mosquitoes hanging out on my screen were waiting for their breakfast of me. I rewarded them with a shot of deep mosquito spray that I had next to my pillow. They didn't appreciate that much and decided to leave, at least for now. I heard Tim in the tent next door waking up swearing something about his zipper didn't close all the way. Damn shit, tent. I had a laugh, just a little thinking of Tim stumbling to his tent when I last saw him about 6 hours earlier. We had a couple beers when we finally got up here last night to celebrate the journey. After the 4-hour drive on the highway from the cities of Sandstone, Minnesota, and my fishing buddy, Tim, was coming all the way from Minneapolis, which is another couple hours if the traffic's good. Then another hour going through 10 miles of gravel logging roads. Then a couple more hours of logging trails, and all the unpacking. Tim's Jeep just barely made it, minus 1 passenger side mirror. The trail to the lake was overgrown with lots of new trees. After we got our tents set up and sleeping bags installed, we had to at least have a couple beers to celebrate. We made it. We were at our favorite bass in Northern Lake deep into the woods of northern Minnesota, and we had made it once again. We couldn't see the lake yet. Not just because of the dark, but because we were still 2 city blocks from the lake, and that's as far as the Jeep could go. We will have to walk that tomorrow carrying our float tubes and fishing tackle and maybe a couple beers. We have been here before to this 200-acre lake, and every time has been a great fishing adventure. We catch the most and biggest fish of the year, and this weekend was going to be the best yet. I cooked bacon, eggs, and butter toast in a frying pan over the camp stove for breakfast, and now we were ready for some fishing. We packed our poles, tackle, and rubber worms and made our way through the thickets and puddles that surrounded the lake. Once we could see the lake, we got our bearings back and looped along the edge of the bog till we got to the beaver dam. There we had a place to blow up the tubes and depart into the main lake. It was a sunny day and the temp was a little hot for being 9 a.m. But that humidity was a killer and we were both anxious to get into the cool spring water to cool off. The float tubes got filled with air from a portable pump and battery we had brought along. We had learned years before to not rely on human breath to try to fill up those tubes. The last time we did that, it almost killed us. So off we paddled with our foot flippers and headed out into the deep dark blue lake. I pulled my rod and reel off the tube and baited it with a purple rubber worm. I rigged it Carolina style, and it wasn't more than 2 casts, and I had on a 4-pound largemouth bass jumping out of the water with my worm hanging out of his mouth. Hell yeah! I yelled, and I looked over, and I could see Tim had something on his line also. That is why we came, I said under my breath. It's a pain, but every time we do, we forget about all the bugs and the hard work it is to get here and fish here. Well, that was what we did for the next 3 hours, pretty much catching bass after bass, and once in a great while, hooking into a monster northern pike. Those guys, you need to be a little careful considering the many teeth that could sink your tube if they aren't played the right way. After a couple hours, I started to notice some dark clouds moving in from the west. They were the extra dark type that meant some kind of storm was going to be here soon, and we were going to get wet. So I got to head back to the beaver dam. We both had a limit of nice keeper bass on stringers attached to our float tubes, which made it a little hard to pick up speed, but we made it before the rain started. We pulled the tubes next to the beaver dam and tied them down to the logs the beaver had made his home from, and we stood on top and looked to the west. The lake had started getting white caps as the wind kept getting stronger and stronger. The clouds were looking really dark, and we had some weird-looking white clouds mixed lower than the dark ones, so we knew this wasn't going to be good for us. "What's the plan, man?" Tim asked. "I think it's too late to head into the woods," I said. At this time, lightning has been hitting dangerously close to us, and the wind was blowing hard. "I think I'm just going to go under one of these little pine trees until the storm passes." "Okay, me too," says Tim. "But let's space ourselves apart in case one of us has to rescue the other one if they get hit by lightning. We may need to resuscitate the other guy." That seemed like a really great idea, or maybe it was the only thing we could do. Either way, we separated. Now it's really storming, and I dive for the nearest pine tree. Tim ran about 20 yards and did the same. That storm lasted forever, but I'm sure it was only 10 minutes or so, and when I looked up and saw it heading east past us with just some misty clouds dragging back alongside the trees. The humidity dropped too, which felt so much better. We didn't get hit by lightning, but we both had felt our hair stick straight up and felt the ground shake with every lightning blast, which there were many. I got up and Tim was pulling himself out of the bog, but the good news was we were both okay. We had both somehow made it, so once again we had gotten lucky. After collecting our wits, it was time to catch some more fish, so we headed for the beaver dam and our tubes. The tubes were a little twisted up with each other, but that wasn't that bad. But when we pulled our stringers out of the water, the bass only had their heads left on. The rest of them were shredded. So much for the 2 limits of bass we had caught pre-storm that morning. The snapping turtles must have gotten pretty hungry during that storm, and they had robbed us of our morning harvest. That wasn't a bad trade, after all, considering what we had just been through, and besides, we knew we could always catch more fish from this little 200-acre lake.
Well, that's it for episode 1 of Tales of Ultimate Sportsman. True life fishing and hunting stories by ultimate sportsmen and women just like you. If you like this episode, please subscribe and we'll see you next trip.